Every system begins with a promise: connection, efficiency, safety. But the deeper you look into the architecture of modern control, the more you realize that the real transformation never happens on the surface. It happens in the data, in the invisible layer that tracks, predicts, and shapes human behavior long before anyone notices. In fiction, this idea takes the form of systems like ctOS, a unified network linking cameras, devices, infrastructure, traffic grids, financial flows. The digital bloodstream of an entire city. A system that sees everything, remembers everything, and learns from everything. Every movement becomes a data point. Every message becomes a signal. Every citizen becomes a profile. And whoever controls that system doesn't just observe the city, they orchestrate it. But fiction is only a metaphor. The real world is far more complex and far less visible. Because behind the public internet, behind the apps and platforms, behind the devices we carry every day, there exists a second layer. A layer built by intelligence agencies, defense contractors, and research programs, whose records are scattered across decades of classified archives. This is where the stories of surveillance programs and targeted individuals emerge, not as confirmed realities, but as testimonies, thousands of them, from people who believe they are being monitored, tracked, or psychologically manipulated. Some describe community surveillance. Some describe electronic harassment. Some reference technologies linked to the documented Fry microwave auditory effect, a real phenomenon where microwaves can produce perceived sound inside the human skull. There are patents for microwave hearing systems. There are whistleblowers who claim covert harassment operations existed. There are fusion centers criticized for overreach and monitoring non-criminal activities. And there are tens of thousands of self-identified TIs whose experiences form a pattern that is impossible to ignore, even if it cannot be fully verified. But the point of trajectory of cancer is not to confirm or deny these claims. It is to examine the trajectory, the direction in which systems evolve when technology advances faster than ethics, oversight, or public understanding. And that trajectory becomes clearer when you look at the stories collected in documentaries like Cognitive Liberty, Mind Control. Testimonies from individuals who describe neuroweapons, cyber torture, behavioral manipulation, and forms of psychological pressure that blur the line between digital and biological influence. Groups like iCater appear in these discussions, advocating for investigation, documentation, and recognition of experiences that mainstream institutions rarely address. Again, The goal is not to validate every claim. The goal is to understand the pattern. As technology becomes more intimate, more embedded, more predictive, the boundary between external influence and internal experience becomes thinner. And that brings us to the final question, the one that echoes through every era of power. If leaders are preparing for worst-case scenarios, what do they know that the public doesn't? Because preparation is a signal. It reveals what systems anticipate long before they announce it. When governments build bunkers, when corporations relocate data centers, when elites diversify into remote safe zones, when intelligence agencies expand their definitions of threat, they are not reacting to the present. They are positioning themselves for a future they expect. And that is the core of trajectory of cancer. Not fear, not speculation, but pattern recognition. A city-wide operating system. Testimonies of targeted surveillance. Documentaries on cognitive liberty. Leaders preparing for scenarios that never reach the public. 4 separate stories. 4 different worlds. One underlying truth. You be the judge. If you're awake, then the message is already clear. Support the movement. Show where you stand. Some choices echo long after the moment has passed.